It's Thursday, August 28th, 2025. Good evening and welcome to the daily happenings inside our federal machine. This is Phaethon and it's time to plunge into the swamp. CDC Director Susan Monarez has been fired by the Trump administration but refuses to leave, just like the governor over at the Fed. Meanwhile, a silver lining, certain cult members inside the CDC are submitting their resignations as a result of the director's firing. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services announced they will be resuming neighborhood investigations, looking particularly into valid residency, good moral character, and strong support for the Constitution among legal U.S. immigrants. And also, a number of different drug busts were announced all over the country today, and we'll be checking those out. Andrew Ferguson, chairman of the Federal Trade Commission, issued a strong letter to Google Alphabet regarding Gmail's use of filtering out Republican ad messages while allowing Democrat ad messages to go through. Google may find themselves under investigation very soon. Homeland Security announced that they caught an illegal immigrant and a convicted pedophile living inside a daycare center in California, because of course they did. And also, Vice President Vance was in La Crosse, Wisconsin today, and while he was there, he spoke with Fox News regarding the state of the housing market, how properties are twice as much today, and what they may be looking into as far as tackling the enormous problem faced by young Americans. And there's lots more happening today, so we're just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I might just read your comment if you decide to leave one. And by the way, everything I share in the video, it was posted no more than 24 hours ago. And most of these posts and articles were within the last 12 hours. So we're just going to get right into it. This is from DEA Phoenix, posted about 5 hours ago. Hashtag DEA Special Agent in Charge Sherry Oz of the Phoenix Division met with 12 News regarding the ruthless and violent Sinaloa cartel and how they use carfentanil in their drug trade. Hashtag Sinaloa Crackdown 2025. So we're going to check out this video. I think this sounds good. We'll just find out. Let's
New
go.
at 6, a resurgence of carfentanil, a drug 100 times more powerful and potent than fentanyl.
12 News journalist
Oh, it's
Rachel
bad.
Cole sitting
It
down
really
with
bad.
the DEA, sharing their warning with us tonight.
Hey guys, for starters, carfentanil not approved for human use. In fact, if and when it
Schedule
is used,
one.
it's to tranquilize large animals, which is
so it
why
is
the
Schedule
DEA
two,
is
maybe.
working so hard to keep it off our streets.
Yeah,
It's
should
poison,
probably
is
schedule
what
one.
it is.
Hundreds of pounds of pure poison.
Look at all that.
Never intended for humans, and
That
here
is a
we
lot
are
of drugs.
dealing with the latest epidemic.
Yeah, shit's probably used for
where we
horses
have
and elephants.
carfentanil in these pills.
Special Agent Sherry Oz sharing the latest sweep of drugs off our streets.
We put forensics on the front line. We brought the chemists right here to us. We're going to bring you drugs in real time, and you tell us what's in it.
You see that it's developing, and you kind of see the single line there, which gives us a presumptively positive result for carfentanil.
Drug cartels, specifically the Sinaloa cartel, mass producing it.
The Sinaloa cartel is only looking at expanding its customer base. They are driving addiction.
Then selling it cheap.
I'm a mom, and so I think about this problem set all the time. That you would lose the thing that you've cherished most in the
Wanna
world
check out the closed
to
captions?
something that costs less than a postage stamp. These pills are cheap and they are dangerous.
Increasing the dangerous opioid crisis already here in Arizona.
They care only about making money, and they are driving
That's
addiction
it,
in
baby.
the United States.
And while their
why we gotta
military
declare
design
war
mobile
against them.
labs can help detect
Like
such
actual
drugs.
war. We got to
What we do as chemists
purge every
is
last
that
one of
we
them.
go through this and make sure that we compare this to a positive control and to ensure that this is actually what it is.
The
There's a lot of money in
magnified
the drug trade, though.
potency at 100
Not
times
just in the
is
drugs,
doing
but in
one
the
thing
combating of
100
drugs.
times more quickly.
Is 100 times more addictive. If they can get that out to people, and people will take that pill, the chances of becoming addicted, if not dying, are much greater.
The warning, watch out for this latest trend.
If we know, then we can let the rest of the country know what's coming, because it's coming to Arizona first. It's here first, and we have about 2 weeks lead time to tell the rest of the country.
Rachel Cole, 12 News.
Rachel,
that-
thanks.
It reminds me of the movie Traffic, where what's his name? The guy who plays the father of the daughter, he gets addicted in it. Michael Douglas, right? Is that Michael Douglas? when he was he had that government position at some point near the end of the movie. He said that they're fighting a war on drugs, in which case you have to wage war on your family. And I don't understand how you can possibly win a war that you have to wage against your own family. I mean, pretty powerful. It wasn't verbatim how he said that quote, but it was obviously better said in the movie. But yeah, man, this is crazy. From DEA Los Angeles, the Sinaloa cartel's reach is vast and unremitting. Tens of thousands of cartel members and associates are operating in at least 40 different countries. DEA is cutting off a cartel pipeline, intercepting drug couriers who peddle its poison. 26 cocaine kilos were seized by DEA HQ. Hashtag Sinaloa Crackdown 2025. And the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, he just pled guilty to RICO charges, and what was the other one? Racketeering or something like that. And Pam Bondi, she said he will spend the rest of his life in prison no matter what. So, and like I said the other day when that was announced, they're just going to find somebody else to replace him. They're always going to. It's just like the mob. That's why they call them a mob, because there's always going to be somebody to replace them. Yeah, it's a war that we've been fighting for how many decades now? Way too many. And I don't know, man. I mean, we wiped out ISIS pretty damn fast. It stands to reason that we could probably wipe out all the cartels just as fast. However, there's a lot of money on both sides, and it almost seems intentional that they just allow this bullshit to continue. And this comes from DEA New England just 3 hours ago. The one before this one right here, this was just 2 hours ago. This is 3 hours ago. DEA New England. Purple fentanyl hidden inside a child's car seat has been seized in Massachusetts. One person has been arrested. Our concentrated efforts continue as we target drugs being brought into our communities from the cartels. Again, Sinaloa. And this is from DEA Louisville 7 hours ago. DEA is working tirelessly to make our communities safer. 5 people were arrested in Western Kentucky after DEA agents working with our law enforcement partners seized approximately 4 pounds of meth, 2 handguns, and about 10 grand in cash. Again, Sinaloa. If you want to check this out, I know I'm moving a little fast. I got a lot to get to, but I'll share these pictures just real quick. And matter of fact, I'll go ahead and repost these too. If you want to check out my X profile, it's at Spaethon with an N at the very end, SPAETHON. And I'll go ahead and repost that. And let me repost this as well. All right, so this one's from DEA Miami, also 7 hours ago. DEA Miami's priority is to make communities safer by going after drug cartels flooding our streets with poison. DEA Miami targets Sinaloa cartel activities by arresting their associates and seizing their drugs, profits, and assets. There you go. Big old shipment of drugs that they seized. Got it off the streets. Lots of heads are going to roll after all these busts today. DEA San Francisco 2 hours ago. Agents work daily to investigate and hold accountable individuals and organizations who distribute drugs and illegal guns in our communities. DEA and law enforcement partners seized fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, marijuana, and firearms. Again, Sinaloa cartel. That's a lot of drugs, man. Lots and lots of drugs. And again, 5 hours ago from the CBP, another day, another takedown. And they reposted from yesterday, DFO Detroit, Marty C. Raybon. Contraband at CBP. Officers seized a firearm, cocaine, ecstasy, and marijuana from a Canada-bound traveler at the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel on August the 18th. So this was, a little over a week ago when they seized these drugs. The man was arrested and turned over to Detroit police. So they got the firearm there. They got hollow points and some drugs. Some more drugs, lots and lots of drugs. So they're busting all kinds of people all over the country. So that was particularly heavy today, man. They were sharing a lot of shit today with regard to drugs today. So I was going to share just one, and then I came across another one and another one and another one. I was like, well, fuck, man, I guess I might as well just share all of these because they were all from different places all around the country. So they're doing a good job, man. They're busting lots. Just the other day, the U.S. Coast Guard, the cutter, I can't remember what the name of the vessel was, but they offloaded well over a dozen tons of cocaine. It was something like 32 or 33 tons of cocaine that they seized just over a weekend. Absolutely crazy, man. Anyway, so we're going to move on to the Department of Homeland Security. Foreign students should not be forever students. For far too long, past administrations have allowed foreign students and other visa holders to remain in the U.S. virtually indefinitely. The Trump administration's new proposed rule would end that abuse once and for all by limiting the amount of time certain visa holders are allowed to remain in the U.S., easing the burden on the federal government to properly oversee these individuals. So this might sound familiar if you listened to my show yesterday. I believe I shared this exact same post, and the reason that I'm sharing this was because Trump himself and also the Trump administration announced that they will be allowing up to 600,000 Chinese students into the United States over the next 2 years, roughly 300,000 students this year for this academic year, and then another 300,000 for next academic year, which I find to be absolutely insane. I mean, when they're talking about this, but yet they're going to allow in hundreds of thousands of Chinese students, doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So they're our number one adversary, our economic adversary, our military adversary is China. So why are we going to allow hundreds of thousands of their young adult citizens, probably their most brilliant minds, who have wealthy parents because they're probably high up in the CCP, that's how they can afford to go to college here because they're paying in cash in most cases for tuition. That's how they're allowed in part. I mean, that's not exclusively why we let them in because they pay cash, but most of them do. And they're giving all this cash for tuition to all these Ivy League colleges, which we're not going to see, the taxpayers. It's only going to be the universities that reap the benefits of that. And we're going to teach them the same materials that we teach our best and brightest here in the United States. And once they get their degrees, they head right back over to China. I mean, you might as well just be handing over our trade secrets on a silver platter, because our universities, they sure as hell have enough money. So I find that to be completely ridiculous. But all right, anyway, I'm not 100% sure if I have that 600,000 Chinese student post. But if I have time, I'll try to look it up. Matter of fact, let me see if I could just look it up right now. Let me just take a quick look here. Let's go. I don't really want to do Grok, though. I'd rather just try to find the post itself. See if this brings up anything. It should. President Trump's White House just announced they are not letting in an additional 600,000 Chinese students. This was 5 hours ago. Okay, so they may have walked it back. According to this, they did walk it back. Did Lutnick really just argue that Trump is letting 600,000 Chinese students into America so Americans will go to worse schools and keep them from closing? Trump opens door to 600,000 Chinese students in U.S. People were assuming that this was per year, and I read somewhere that it was corrected by a government official that it wasn't 600,000 per year, it's 600,000 over 2 years. But still, man, 300,000 Chinese students, that's still fucking ridiculous, though. But see, look, and then they're justifying it because back in 2022, there were almost 300,000. In 2023, there are almost 300,000. So it's just the status quo. It's just normal. Every year, we let in hundreds of thousands of Chinese students into our country to get our higher education, take full advantage of the greatest education that America has to offer, and then they take all of that knowledge over to our adversary, where they will use it against us in any way, shape, or form that they can. No fucking sense. Doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, this is a quick clip. I'll at least play this. Because according to this, it says they're not letting them
telling
in.
Fox News, quote, President Trump is not proposing an increase in student visas for Chinese students. The 600K references 2 years worth of visas, which is simply a continuation of existing policy. Molly,
Well, there you go. That's not any fucking better now, is it? So they are still going to be letting in 600,000 Chinese students over the next 2 years. Yeah, if they're adding another 600,000 Chinese students on the top of the 600,000, yeah, that would be extraordinarily bad. We weren't even arguing that in the first place. We're just saying, why are you letting in six dozen, let alone 600,000? You shouldn't be letting any of them in because they're our main adversary right now. It makes no sense. Of course, China, I don't think, probably behind closed doors, they're probably chanting death to America. But, I mean, come on, man. This is ridiculous. It makes no freaking sense to me. So, yeah, a lot of people are pissed off about it. I would show a lot of the tweets as there were. If I had scrolled down that list, there's a whole bunch of, higher echelon X users, X accounts, those with millions of followers. They were talking about that over the last day or two. And they were, let's say they were voicing their displeasure with that decision. I think they should have just completely had just denied every last one of them. Allow Americans to get these educations. How about that? How about we allow the Americans to get those educations in place of the Chinese? Or what about British citizens? What about French citizens? What about some of our closest allies? What about Australia? Maybe even Canada. I might even let a few Canadians come in and get an education. Replace the Chinese with some of the Canadian students. I know, I'm sure we're letting them in too. I get it, but all right, whatever. So this one comes from ACYN. So we're going to start getting into the firing of the CDC director, which the Trump administration announced. I want to say it was yesterday evening. It was announced, I believe, after I had finished compiling everything for yesterday's episode. Usually I'm done looking at everything roughly around 6 p.m. That's usually my personal cutoff. And I usually try to get everything started by 6:30, 7 at the latest. For example, right now it's 6:57 p.m. And yeah, I've been going for about 15 minutes. But anyway, so the reporter in the video, well, you know what? I'm just going to play the video. I mean, why repeat what they're already going to say?
Carolyn, thank you so much. First on the firing of the CDC director. First, who will replace her? And then also, overnight the White House said that she did not align with the president's agenda. Dr. Monarez is trying to say that she refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts. What specifically did she do wrong?
She's probably following the ideology, not the science. That's probably what they're doing. They're following the progressive left cultist, recent college graduate, leftist cultist ideologies. That's what they're doing. I think that's what they're doing. They're allowing science to take a back seat, and they're pushing forward shit like gender this and climate change that. And they've got an agenda. They have an ulterior motive. That's what I think. And the whole, the vaccines from COVID worked perfectly fine, and they're standing with that. And Secretary Kennedy has already said that those mRNA vaccines are just complete bullshit, and they're putting a stop to the continued use of those because they don't fucking work. At least they don't work to the degree that they claim that they work. And we already know the COVID vaccine's not even a vaccine anyway. It's a damn therapeutic. It's always been a therapeutic. They had been clear. The CDC themselves have been clear during the COVID era that if you get a COVID vaccine, you're still going to get COVID. The only thing that they said, if you get a COVID vaccine, it'll keep you out of the hospital. I got a pretty good memory. That's what they said. And they said it repeatedly back then, which is one of many reasons why I didn't get a vaccine. I didn't even get a damn COVID test. I didn't trust those assholes. I'm not getting that shit because it's a therapeutic. It wasn't going to prevent me from getting COVID. I was going to get COVID anyway. So why the fuck even, I'm going to trust the immune system that God gave me. That's what I'm trusting. I'm putting my trust into God. All right.
Look,
anyway,
what I will
let's continue
say about
here.
this individual is that her lawyer's statement made it abundantly clear themselves that she was not aligned with the president's mission to make America healthy again. And the secretary asked her to resign. She said she would, and then she said she wouldn't. So the president fired her, which he has every right to do. It was President Trump who was overwhelmingly reelected on November 5th. This woman.
Yeah, no, they want to make America pharmaceutical guinea pigs again. That's what they want. They want to keep us on big pharma. By making America healthy again, if people legit get healthy, if they lose their morbid obesity or even just their overweight, and they hit the gym and they lose the weight, they eat less, and they stop eating so much processed foods, and people actually legitimately get healthy again. Do you have any idea how many billions, probably over $1 trillion a year that Big Pharma is going to lose out on? They've got a lot of incentive to keep these people in here to try to keep us unhealthy. Not healthy.
Has never received a vote in her life, and the president has the authority to fire those who are not aligned with his mission.
Damn straight he does.
A new replacement will be announced by either the president or the
the
secretary
left, man,
very soon.
Hate Kennedy, dude.
And
They've
the
been
president and
seething at him
Secretary
online
Kennedy
today.
are committed to restoring trust and transparency and credibility to the CDC by ensuring their leadership and their decisions are more public-facing, more accountable, strengthening our public health system, and restoring it to its core mission of protecting Americans from communicable diseases, investing in innovation to prevent, detect, and respond to future threats. That's the mission of the CDC, and we're going to make sure that folks that are in positions of leadership there are aligned with that mission.
Absolutely, man. Keep America healthy. Make America healthy, and then keep America healthy. I'm sure politically, Secretary Kennedy probably still has the same values that he's had for most of his adult life. I'm sure he hasn't changed his political stance on lots of different things, probably a lot of which probably still align with Democrat ideology. But the dude wants to make America healthy, and he's been trying to, according to him, for many, many years, and nobody would ever listen to him. And finally, President Trump makes him the HHS director or administrator or whatever the hell they call it. I think secretary, right? Yeah, secretary of HHS. And yeah, he's over the moon, and he's doing everything he can. I mean, he's doing push-ups and pull-ups with Pete Hegseth in the freaking Pentagon, for crying out loud. Winning. All right, so this is from Fox News. Longtime government scientist Susan Monarez is refusing to step down as CDC director after the Department of Health and Human Services announced her removal less than a month after she was sworn in. And next one from Anna Matson. The deep state is in full panic. The CDC director was just publicly fired, and she wasn't even in her role for a month. But her lawyer says she wasn't fired. Now, 4 other leaders are resigning too. Here's what happened. Now, I didn't have a chance to go through this thread. I mean, that's what that little symbol means. It indicates that there's some other information down here. So first, it's important to know that Susan Monarez was not President Trump's or RFK Jr.'s preferred pick. Dr. Dave Weldon was first nominated for CDC director, but was pulled during the last hour because he didn't get enough Senate support. See, that's the whole thing. Because when they're nominating all this stuff, the Senate is quite divided between Republicans and Democrats. Like, what is it, like 51-49, something like that? So to get nominations in the Senate, I'm assuming they need 60 votes, don't they? Isn't that usually the status quo when it comes to the Senate confirming? I think they need 60. I don't think it's a 51. Otherwise, they would just be able to rubber stamp anybody that Trump wants to bring in. Of course, though, Republicans, they don't rely on everything. There's usually a couple of defectors here and there that are on the Republican side. Democrats, they're constantly in lockstep. Not one of them steps out of line usually. So in order for them to make concessions and them to barter and make deals and stuff, there's probably a couple of leaders, such as the CDC leader, that Democrats wanted in, Republicans didn't want, but Democrats are going to play stupid fucking games, try to win some stupid prizes. So I'm sure the Trump administration caved and said, okay, fine, we'll put her in. And now they're reversing their decision. So, I mean, frankly, they probably could have done that with anybody the Democrats wanted. They probably could have gotten everybody nominated or put through before the recess happened at the beginning of August. And then once everybody came back from recess, then the Trump administration could have just, got rid of everybody the Democrats wanted and then start replacing them accordingly. But still, I'm sure they still have to get Democrat approval in the Senate still, even if they fire him and replace him with somebody else. I'm assuming that's going to be the case. So anyway, so we've got statement from President Trump. I'm not going to read the statement, but it's here, and I will go ahead while I'm thinking of it. I will repost this, so you'll get this whole thread if you check out my profile, or you can just go straight to Anna Matson. It's at Anna R. Matson. That's her profile, and I'm sure she's probably got it pinned. I mean, hell, this thing's sitting at, 2.4 million views now, and this was just from not even 24 hours ago. And also, number 2, that's when Susan Monarez was nominated. Secretary Kennedy showed public support, but I called out the BS the moment it happened. Kennedy does not have full control over his department, and that's her calling it out back in March. And number 3, Bill Cassidy does. In exchange for confirming Kennedy in the Senate, he had a long list of demands. RFK Jr. will have a close working relationship with Cassidy with multiple meetings a month. A month? Cassidy will help hire for the health agencies. Kennedy will work with current safety monitoring systems and not establish parallel systems. Maintain the CDC's advisory committee on immunization practices recommendations without changes. CDC will not remove statements on their website pointing out that vaccines do not cause autism. Okay. Will not use sue and settle techniques to change policies without Congress. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Kennedy will come in front of the Help Committee on a quarterly basis if requested. The Help Committee chair may choose a representative for any board or commission formed to review vaccine safety. A 30-day notice must be given to the committee if the agency seeks to make changes to any of the federal vaccine safety monitoring programs, and the committee can review it. Cassidy will use his authority to rebuff any attempt to remove the public's access to life-saving vaccines without ironclad evidence that says otherwise, and Cassidy will watch for any effort to wrongfully sow confusion about vaccines. So it's 5 minutes long. I'm sure that everything I just read is probably contained in this video, so I'm going to move on. Anna Matson. So number 4, it is speculated that Susan Monarez was actually picked by Bill Cassidy since he holds the power in the Senate. Less than a month after being confirmed, she was ousted. First, the Washington Post leaked it, and shortly after, HHS confirmed it. And there's the images of that. But her attorney says she has neither resigned nor yet been fired. An anonymous source says Kennedy instructed Monarez to fire CDC's top leadership. Instead, she called Bill Cassidy. That put Kennedy over the edge. Uh-oh. And there's that. Not too long after Monarez was fired, top CDC officials started to resign. This includes Dr. Dimitri Daskalakis, who used scientific reality and pregnant people in the same paragraph. Yeah, we're going to get to this fucking quack in a little bit. This dude is a fucking weirdo. He's a cultist. He is, yeah. Actually, she might actually beat me to it. So Dimitri was the director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases. He promotes the COVID vaccine, LGBTQIAA+++, and the previous administration. Okay, good. She didn't show anything too crazy. Yeah, there's some pretty wild picture. We're going to get to that. Yeah, that dude is an absolute lunatic. Well, I mean, maybe that's a little bit too harsh. Let's just say that he's got a lot of not safe for work, after work practices that he loves to engage with. Number 9, Dr. Daniel Jernigan was the director of the National Center for Emerging and Zoonotic Infectious Diseases. Last year, he swore to Congress that COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective. And maybe for the majority. I don't know. They're not safe for everyone, that's for damn sure. And number 10, it has also been reported that Dr. Deborah Hury, Chief Medical Officer and Deputy Director for Program and Science at CDC, resigned, and Dr. Jennifer Lauren, Director for the Office of Public Health Data, Surveillance, and Technology, left the agency as well. See, I wonder which side they vote on. I wonder who they truly hold their allegiance to. Probably not to President Trump or America First or anybody who's in charge of the administration. They're probably rogue scientists who want to do whatever the hell they believe that in their mind is the right thing to do. But no, you've got bosses, man. You got people that you got to be accountable to, namely the American people above all. Number 11, it's unclear if these employees left in anticipation of their dismissal. Yeah, I'm sure they did. The CDC has big things ahead. Secretary Kennedy is announcing his findings on the cause of autism next month. What? And we do not need these bad actors in the way. What? Uh-oh. So we are 48th in life expectancy worldwide, but spend the most on healthcare. Yes, we are. And I hope he blows the lid off of all of it. Everything we've been doing is wrong. These CDC employees contributed to this massive public health decline. It's time for a new wave. Bring in Dr. Dave Weldon to get the job done. All right. Not sure about Dr. Dave Weldon. I will, since this is only a minute 30, I'll go ahead and give this a play if it'll.
If I could just,
Hold on. Let me, yeah, here we go. All right. Let me adjust the volume. Make sure we got some good volume here.
If I could just, I don't want to go too long because we have a lot of people, but the autism is such a tremendous horror show, what's happening in our country and some other countries, but mostly our country. How are you doing on that?
We are doing very well. We will have announcements as promised in September. We're finding interventions, certain interventions now that are clearly, almost certainly causing autism. And we're going to be able to address those in September.
It's such a big day. I'm looking forward to that day because there's something wrong when you see the kind of numbers that you have today versus 20 years ago. And those numbers, what are those numbers, Bob?
In 1970, the biggest epidemiological study in history was done in Wisconsin. They looked at 900,000 children and they were looking for autism. They knew what it looked like. And they were very, very precise about it, and they found an incident rate of 0.7, in other words, less than 1 per every 10,000 children.
Wow.
Today, our most recent numbers are 1 in every 31 kids. It's probably actually much worse than that because California, which has the best collection system, is reporting 1 out of every 19 children, American children.
Holy shit.
Has autism, 1 in every 12.5 boys. So it's gone from less than 1 in 10,000 in 1970.
Wow.
1 in 12.5 boys.
See those numbers.
Wow, man. Well, you are what you eat. That is absolutely crazy, dude. It's the fucking fluoride, man. I'm telling you, it's the fluoride. I bet it's the fluoride. That wouldn't surprise me if that was a big factor in it, at least. Or the processed food. You can't kick that out of bed. That's probably going to be a major factor in it, too. I mean, dude, they know what causes autism. They know what causes cancer. They probably got the cure for cancer. They probably have since, like, the 1940s. They've got all of it under lock and key because Big Pharma, they are extremely wealthy, and they want to keep it that way. I don't know. I mean, if you ask me, I think probably what the major cause for cancer for probably virtually all of us is probably just radiation from the sun, cosmic radiation just from the universe in general. I mean, we're getting bombarded with radiation from all over the place constantly, 24 hours around the clock. I mean, you've got radiation passing through your body right now, all the time, from all over the universe. It's everywhere. It's all around us. All right, so is that it? I think that's it. Thank you for your support as it allows me to continue my work. Let's make America healthy again. Hell yeah, man, let's go. So that is that. And from Tom Fenton, doctor who calls pregnant mothers pregnant people, is leaving the CDC. Now, just for a second, I'm going to get to this. I don't know if I have it below or if I just left it here. So I may end up scrolling back up to show you that. And by the way, the Dr. Dimitri, he's the one that I said he does like not safe for work shit outside of work. And he apparently likes to post that stuff online, or at least people did on his behalf. Buck Sexton, anyone who had any power or leadership role at the CDC during COVID deserves to be fired. The failure was that universal and cowardice that widespread. And they've got an article here from the New York Times, which I will put it in the description if you want to read into this. It will be down in the description. Yeah, they're going to hit you with this. I don't think it's paywalled, but they're going to annoy you with the $1 per week or whatever the hell. But yeah, that'll be down there in the description. And from Libs of TikTok, sincerely, Dimitri C. Daskalakis, MD, MPH, he, his, him. And that's on the letter that we're going to get to. Yeah, here it is. This is the letter I was going to get to. I thought that I had it on here. I'm not going to read it all, and I'm going to show you why I'm not going to read it all, because it is extremely lengthy. Look at this. He typed up all this. This is his resignation. It looks like he's got some stuff to say. LGBTQ. Let's see. It's about the health of the community, the nation, the world. Yeah, so he's a globalist. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. And yeah, he, his, him. Of course, put that down at the bottom. Didn't get ratioed, though, but 15,000 comments. That's a lot of comments for a resignation letter. So what I will do, I will check. Actually, here, let me scroll up here to this. We'll check out a little bit of the comments, because that's where shit gets a little spicy. Hopefully it's not too spicy for YouTube. Oh my God, dude, you had way too much time to write. You should have just said, I'm tenuring my resignation. Like, go fuck yourself or something. Like, do what Democrats do. You know, resort to name calling when you got nothing else. All right, so you signed it. Or yeah, you signed it. He, his, and him. Get the fuck out. Hey, pronounclown.com. Yes, I own the URL. Oh, really? That's funny. Good riddance. You need to be tried criminally and put at the front of the line at Nuremberg 2.0, where I will be record all the liars that spread dangerous, deadly information like you did, and you will pay. So I wonder if he might be behind some of those puberty blockers and hormone treatments and the puberty blockers. That's another big one. I wonder if he has something to say about that. But there's an image of him there, and there's an image of him there with the pentagram or pinnacle or whatever that is. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read into all that. I haven't been a teenager in a while. Let's see. Guess that annoyed you. Oh, well. Well, dude, that's not exactly professional. If you know, like, not very good representative of our CDC. And here's another one. Another really sketch, kind of creepy. He's obviously got the devil's pentagram tattooed right there. So, and that looks like the devil there, isn't it? Isn't that Lucifer right there tattooed on his stomach? And this dude is one of the heads of the CDC. He was in charge of like the infectious disease, whatever, which he probably has some of his own. And so the left, RFK Jr. is too anti-science. Also the left, yeah, that's an old one. Democrats after they take a shit. All right. Well, those were the two main ones that I wanted to show you. There's probably more that's contained down there, but after all, we're on YouTube, so there's, you know, that's not over the line in any way at all. I mean, they weren't too graphic, but I just wanted to point out that he's got some devil tattoos and things of that nature, and I mean, probably doesn't have the set of morals and values that you would want out of somebody who's contributing to the running of our CDC, to say the least. All right, so we're going to move on to the next topic. This is from Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's the governor of Illinois, of course. According to federal data, 13 of the top 20 cities in homicide rates have Republican governors. None of those cities are Chicago. 8 of the top 10 states in homicide rates are led by Republicans. None of those states are Illinois, and yet Trump is sending troops here. However, it's an interesting statistic, and let's say that he's right. The 20 cities with homicide rates, with regard to local politicians, the mayors, and even the judges that are voted in these big cities, they're all going to be blue cities. They're all going to be Democrat cities. Like almost all cities that are over 1 million in size are all run by a bunch of Democrats. So, yeah, I mean, Illinois is a blue state. So I don't know, why he's trying to posture with this, because you are in a blue state, sir, and Chicago is a blue city in a blue state. So why is this really relevant to you? I don't know. But anyway, he's replying to Donald J. Trump's Truth Social post. A really deadly weekend in Chicago. 6 dead, 27 hurt in crime sprees all over the city. Panic-stricken Governor Pritzker says that crime is under control, when in fact it is just the opposite. He is an incompetent governor, of course, and so are like the last half dozen ones before him, who should call me for help, which, by the way, weren't like 3 of the last 4 or 5 governors in prison. Mayor Johnson is no better. Make Chicago great again. So that happened. I don't think that, I'm sure I replied with something, but you should have shared the federal data you're citing, but instead you share a Trump post. I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. Oh, here we go. Somebody else shared something. Top 30 U.S. cities crime rate 2024. Well. Now, to be fair, you're not citing your sources either, good sir. Lifelong patriot. I don't know where this came from. Where did it come from? Crimerate.com? No, that's the crime rate in and of itself. So, I mean, perhaps maybe he put it down in the description or in a comment. I don't know why, but all right. Yeah. Anyway. Well, this person says San Antonio and El Paso are blue. Yeah, El Paso is blue. So why is it red? I don't know. It is blue. I looked at the Texas congressional map after the changes that they made, and El Paso is a little blue dot right on the edge of Texas. So that one I know for sure. And San Antonio, yeah, it's probably blue. I mean, come on. Oklahoma City, all right, yeah, fine, we'll give it to them. But still, even if you give them all 4 of those, that's still 4 out of 30. And like I said, I have to look at it on both. I have to be fair to both sides, though, because this dude didn't share his source either. So, if I'm going to throw flack at J.B. Pritzker for not citing his sources, I can't take that as the gospel truth either, even though it probably is. It wouldn't surprise me for a second if that's actually the actual case. So, things to do in Chicago. Leave. Do your fucking research. Based on the most recent 2024-25 crime data from the FBI and other sources, here are the top 20 U.S. cities with the highest violent crime rates, along with the political affiliation of their mayors. Memphis, Tennessee is number 1. Democrat. Detroit, Democrat. I mean, look, they're all Democrat. Every single one of them. They're all Oh, wait. Tulsa, Oklahoma at the very bottom. Republican. But the other 19, the top 19 after 20, are exclusively Democrat. So there you go. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. I got quite a bit to get to. At least I believe I do. I think I counted something like 40 posts. But to be fair, to myself, I would say those 5 or 6 or maybe 7 regarding the drug busts that they had found, I would kind of roll that into one because I didn't really spend a whole lot of time on each one of those. So maybe I've got like 30, maybe 33. So this comes from Rapid Response 47, 5 hours ago. Press Secretary blasts Governor Pritzker. For 13 consecutive years, Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city. This is J.B. Pritzker's legacy. Let's have a listen to this. This was from today.
As for Chicago and cracking down on crime, it is a priority of this administration to ensure that American cities are safe again. And I'm so glad that you brought up the crime in Chicago, because we've been seeing the governor of Illinois parading out there saying that There's nothing wrong with Chicago. It's a great place to live. There's no crime there.
No, he's a stupid fuck, man. We all know that Chicago's a hellhole.
They
don't call it Chirac for nothing.
And the statistics beg to differ, and I'll just share a few of those statistics with all of you. For 13 consecutive years,
here we go.
Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city.
Consecutive.
This is J.B. Pritzker's legacy, by the way. For 7 consecutive years, Chicago has had the
well, yeah, and then of course the Democrats are going to say, well, I just don't believe you. I don't trust the information that you're getting. Dude, she's citing FBI data. Government data has to be the most trustworthy data that we have. And we've got .edu when it comes to medical studies and sociological studies and, with regard to the scientific community, we've got educational sources that we really should be taken as it says, although a lot of that's been called into question because we have a lot of ideologues that are running these universities and so I don't know. But government statistics, what are you going to trust above government statistics? There isn't anything you can trust more than that. I mean, that's what we pay our tax money for, in part, is to try to keep accurate records of the state of our country and about any type of different statistic you could possibly imagine.
Highest murder rate among U.S. cities with more than 1 million people. In 2024, just last year, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than New York City.
Dude, and everybody knows this. Nobody can hide this. Democrats coming out and saying, no, Chicago's perfectly safe. Trump is just an evil orange man dictator, and that's the way it is. Chicago's just perfectly fine. Dude, nobody fucking believes you. People who live in Chicago sure as hell don't believe you. Nobody does. Even the Democrats have been talking about how Chicago's got a crime problem for many, many years. And the number one issue that they always bring up on the left is gun control, getting rid of all the guns in Chicago. And every time they make an issue about guns, they usually point directly to Chicago. And now they've gotten 3,000 shootings last year, 3,500 shootings the year before. So anytime they bring up guns, they almost always bring up Chicago. And they say that we have to get rid of guns. We have to suppress the Second Amendment for the people in Chicago. Chicago. It's been an ongoing thing forever. We're not retarded, man. We all know this shit.
That's more than double the murder rate in Islamabad and nearly 15 times more than Delhi. Out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes this year. That's how many crimes have been reported in Chicago since January 1st. There have only been arrests in 16% of them. These numbers are unacceptable.
No fucking way. Let me hear that. I gotta hear that again.
January 1st.
Hold on a second.
And nearly 15 times more than Delhi. Out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes this year. That's how many crimes have been reported in Chicago.
150,000 crimes in the city of Chicago. Dude, that percentage has got to be insane. That's like what, like 1 out of 10 people commit a crime in Chicago or some shit like that? I mean, if you divvied it up 1 crime per person, I'm sure there's tons of them committing dozens of crimes in a year. But
since January 1st, there have only been arrests in 16% of them. These numbers are unacceptable. There have been more illegal guns recovered in Chicago than in New York City and Los Angeles combined. The number of reported motor vehicle thefts last year was more than...
Well, it's all Indiana's fault. It's Indiana's fault because they're just an evil red state that's right next to Chicago. That's where they get all their guns from. So it doesn't fucking matter, man.
Double the number in 2021.
It's still not Indiana, though.
And Chicago has also, just like D.C., come under scrutiny over discrepancies in its homicide data reporting. So as bad as these numbers are, perhaps they are even worse. And this is Governor Pritzker's...
Plus, how many of these cops, how many of these politicians are probably secretly taking all these guns out of the back door of the evidence room and selling them back on the street? I mean, you know that's got to be happening. Not saying it is, just an opinion. I know it's a little conspiratorial. I'm just saying.
He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago, and we hope that he will.
Yep, sounds like they're eyeing Chicago. Well, they are. They are eyeing Chicago, and they damn well should be, because there's a lot of people in Chicago. They would welcome that. Look, if it takes President Trump to send in the cavalry to clean up the streets of Chicago, I think even a lot of the Democrats in Chicago would be okay with that. Like, look, man, I haven't walked out by myself at night in Chicago my entire adult life. That would be kind of nice to do. That'd be kind of nice to walk around and not worried about getting freaking carjacked or mugged or shot or whatever. I don't know, it'd be kind of nice. I'm not speaking for myself. I don't live in Chicago. I live in St. Pete. But yeah, I've been up there before. My sister lives there. She does. She lives up there by the Loop. She lives in downtown Chicago. And, you know, if crime wasn't so bad, I would consider her lucky. I mean, I definitely worry about her, but, you know, she does her own thing. Kind of ironically, she is on the left. We are completely polar opposites when it comes to our political stances. So that makes for some interesting Thanksgiving and Christmas gatherings. But we usually try to keep politics out of the conversation. But yeah, she is very much on the left. She used to be a professor over in LA, actually. So, yep, quite different. But anyway, whatever. So this is going to be from Caroline Levitt. Trump winning fight to protect minors from gruesome gender surgeries. This is from amac.us. And we'll take a look at this as soon as it decides to load up. And we'll zoom in this biznatch. All right. Trump winning fight to protect minors from gruesome gender surgeries. This is posted today on the 20th. Matt who? Oh, Matt Lamb. I thought I saw like Matt Taibbi or something. I was like, what? All right. Fulfilling yet another 2024 campaign promise, President Donald Trump has succeeded in shutting down dozens of so-called gender clinics. Yeah, those gender-affirming care centers. They also have gender-affirming therapists and doctors where you can go and, you know, affirming, as far as I understand, affirming is just another way of saying that whatever you tell them that you have, they just agree with everything that you say. So if you go in and you see like a shrink or a psychiatrist or something, if you go see an affirming psychiatrist, you tell them, I think I have ... Or I believe that I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. And they say, you certainly are. Here's some drugs. You take that, and then you'll start becoming a woman tomorrow. How do you like them apples? Them Adam's apples. All right, so gender clinics nationwide protecting children from dangerous, life-altering surgeries amid his administration's broader crackdown on gender ideology. On January 28th, Trump signed an executive order on protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation, which mandated a whole-of-government response to the radical and false claim that adults can change a child's sex through a series of irreversible medical interventions. This dangerous trend will be a stain on our nation's history, and it must end, Trump declared. The executive order required all agencies that provide federal funding to hospitals and medical schools to ensure they end the chemical and surgical mutilation of children or lose their taxpayer support. This included lucrative Medicaid funding that many hospitals receive. And moving on, let's see what gender ideology proponents euphemistically refer to as gender-affirming surgeries include elective operations to remove healthy breasts from girls and to reconfigure healthy male genitalia on boys into a grotesque approximation of female genitalia. Yeah, they carve a hole and they just make it into a fleshy patch where there used to be male genitalia. It's horrific, to be honest. And it's certainly nothing that anybody should be doing until, you know what, I'm going to use the left's argument on this. This should be completely banned for any adult unless they're 25 years old or older because their prefrontal cortex hadn't developed yet. That's an argument the left uses all the time. No, well, like a woman who's 22 or 23 years old, she shouldn't date a 40-year-old man. He's a predator because her prefrontal cortex hasn't developed all the way. So she's basically like still a child. But it's still okay that she's allowed to vote, she's allowed to drive, allowed to smoke, drink, go gambling, you know, do all the other things that adults do, despite her prefrontal cortex not developed yet. All right, whatever. So double mastectomies have been performed on hundreds of girls as young as 12 since 2017 alone. Just unbelievably fucked up. All right, so that will be in the description, starting with amac.us if you want to check that out and read the rest of it yourself. And this comes from a Rapid Response 47 at VP from, well, you know what? I'm just going to let it play out because they do that a lot. They'll put the quotes in, and sometimes I get a little ahead of myself and I read the quotes, and then 2 seconds later, he says exactly what I just read. So let's just give it a play.
You go back to the 4 years of the Biden administration, from 2021 until 2025, when we took over, the average price of a new home doubled. That's a 100% increase in 4 years. That priced millions upon millions of young Americans out of the housing market.
Completely
now, there's
out.
A little bit of good news here, because even though we've only been in power for about 7 months, you've already seen home prices flatten off a little bit. They've gone up, depending on what metric you believe, about 1%, maybe less than 1%.
Well, it also depends on which market you're living in too, because up in the Northeast, I'm sure they're still going up and up. And right now, it's a real conundrum. it's really difficult to try to get this back under control, because in places like in New England, they're still buying the properties though. Even though they've doubled, people are still buying them. So if somebody wants to sell their house for $1 million, even though it was only valued at, well, even if it's valued today at $500,000 and somebody wants to sell it for $1 million, if somebody buys it, they can buy it. And that increases the overall value of the neighborhood by a little bit. So it's a really tough situation that the best way for housing to come down is if people just quit buying the damn houses. Let the houses sit on the market for a year until the owner is just in a position where they just have to lower it and lower it and lower it until somebody finally steps in and says, okay, that's a fair deal, I'll take that. And that's kind of the way it works. The only other way I can think of is mass unemployment. And definitely don't want that to happen. That definitely would be a catastrophe. And, you know, tons of foreclosures and what have you. I mean, that's going to drive down the market like crazy. But of course, the Trump administration, they're going to try like hell to make sure that doesn't happen. So how do you really force down the value of houses? Maybe go to the local property appraisal offices. From what I've heard, the state of Texas, some of those offices are being investigated for fraud because they were, so allegedly, they were wildly inflating or valuing the value of entire neighborhoods, essentially doubling their value overnight, because it was a tactic they were using to try to get more property taxes out of people. So if the local property appraisal offices, they have the power to do it, they can raise the quote unquote value of entire neighborhoods to whatever price they want. And then of course they can tax significantly higher accordingly, especially if it goes above a certain tax bracket or whatnot. So that's another place that you can look at as far as trying to get the housing values under control. But anyway, I'll let VP Vance finish off.
It's a big improvement, but there's so much more that we got to do. And this is why the President of the United States goes after Jerome Powell for being too late, because of course the housing crisis in this country is really two things. Number one, that the prices are too high. We've made some progress on that. In some ways, more importantly, the interest rates are too high. So even if you can afford the top line dollar,
I don't think that's going to help at all. I think if they lower interest rates, it's only going to make the housing values go up even more. It is, because a lot of people are reluctant to buy a house right now because the interest rates are high, which forces people to keep their houses on the market longer. The longer they keep the houses on the market, the more they're pressured to sell the property, which will force them to lower their asking price until it reaches a point where somebody steps in and says, you know what, I will take it for that price, even though it's a 6% mortgage rate. I'm willing to do that. Or you get big corporations or big hedge funds that step in and they just gobble up all kinds of houses. I mean, that happened a lot in Florida. I'm sure it happened in many other states, maybe even including the state that you're living in. And I really honestly don't think interest rates are going to fix that at all. All it's going to do is just incentivize people to step up now and say, okay, now that the interest rates are down to 5% or 4%, you know, we've been waiting for that. I know housing is twice as much as it was 5 years ago, but knocking down a couple of percentage points on the interest rates, I mean, that's going to save like another $100,000 or however much it would save on the back end after your 30-year mortgage is paid off. So I mean, it's a real conundrum. I mean, if you have a different opinion on that, or if you know something I don't, definitely leave a comment to that effect. I really don't know. I just have a feeling that, you know, if anything, I think they should actually, it's probably way too late. They absolutely should have raised interest rates much higher back in probably 2021 or 22. Probably too late to do it now, but I think that would also be a contributor as far as getting housing down to a lower level in terms of value, would be to maybe raise up interest rates to like 8% or 9%. And I know a lot of people are going to say you're absolutely brutally insane for even suggesting that. As far as housing goes, I don't know, man. I think that's probably the most reasonable thing that you can do, as opposed to just stepping in and like having the government just forcing down house values, which I don't think they have the power to do anyway.
Value of a home.
Maybe the state level.
If the interest rates are way too high because the Federal Reserve isn't doing its job,
people don't sell,
also
dude.
Makes the American dream of home ownership unaffordable. So we're really working on both of those things.
I don't agree with that at all.
We had lower interest rates. We had to lower housing prices. We've made, again, progress, but it's early, and we realize there's a lot more work to do.
Whoop, sorry, I was muted. All right, so this comes from Scott Turner. He's responding to JD Vance saying, couldn't agree more. Vice President. Big news coming on that front. So, and he's Housing and Urban Development, right? Yeah, Scott Turner, Secretary of U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So I have a feeling that he's going to say that the government's going to start subsidizing lower income people, that if you want to buy a house, the federal government might contribute like a $10,000 grant or something like that, which I completely disagree with also. I don't think the government should be giving any money toward housing to individuals, because I think that's only going to incentivize home sellers to just increase their prices more. I mean, if they find out that which they may not have the ability to find out if a home buyer is getting a government subsidy to buy their property, but if they did, what's to stop them from saying, well, you know what, the value just went up another 10 grand or something like that. Maybe that's not legal. I'm no expert in housing or anything like that. I just don't like the idea of the government, especially Republicans, because they don't generally like doing that, and just handing out taxpayer money to individuals who are quote unquote low income for housing, because the average house right now it's almost at 400,000. I think it dropped to like 380 or 390,000. But to qualify for the average priced home with a 30-year mortgage at a 6% or 6.5% annual percentage rate, the household income has to be at least $100,000 a year just to qualify for the average priced home in the U.S. And the average American family is not making $100,000 a year, not even close. It's like $27,000 away from that. So I think just dumping money in people's laps, that's only going to make it worse, in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, that's something. I'm kind of fiery when it comes to the housing market, because I live in Florida. I saw the worst of it during COVID. The properties, the number of properties that were for sale during the height of COVID was only like 7,000 properties statewide, and it skyrocketed the housing values here to the point where the vast majority of Floridians cannot even afford a house, not even close. In my area, you have to be making $106,000 a year just to qualify for the average priced home locally, and that's on average all around Tampa Bay, which is like a 3 million person metropolitan area. So yeah, it sucks. It sucks really bad. But things seem to be getting better in Florida in particular, because last I checked, we had about 250,000 houses on the market, and they're not selling because they're too damn expensive. And of course, the interest rates are preventing it. But these houses that have been sitting on the market for months and months, they're reducing their prices because the interest rates are high and nobody wants to get a mortgage. And that's how you get housing values down, I think. But again, what do I know? What the fuck do I know? I don't know. So anyway, from the GOP, moving on to the next topic, President Trump's crackdown on crime is working. We have had fewer gun crimes, fewer homicides, and we have experienced an extreme reduction in carjackings. And look who that's coming from. Mayor Bowser of D.C. Well.
This is what we think in just a couple of weeks of experience has worked. Having more federal law enforcement officers on the street. We think having more stops that got to illegal guns has helped. We think that there's more accountability in the system, or at least perceived accountability in the system.
Judges.
That is driving down illegal behavior.
You need to get a hold of them judges.
We know that we have had fewer gun crimes, fewer homicides, and we have experienced an extreme reduction in carjackings.
All right. Sounds like it's time for Trump to put his Trump was right about everything hat back on again, because he was right. Of course he was, man. It's just basic ass common sense. If you flood a city with law enforcement, crime's going to go down. Of course it's going to go down. That's just the path of common sense. All right, so we're going to go to this one from Senator Mazi Hirono. Doge's irresponsible and reckless actions have put the personal information of hundreds of millions of Americans at risk, leaving them vulnerable to identity theft or worse. The only thing Doge has been quote unquote efficient at is compromising the integrity of our government. So, I'm trying to think if I should do the article or if I should jump into the comments. Not so sure. Let me think. All right, you know what? I'm just going to go into the Times. So, breaking news, Doge puts the personal information of hundreds of millions of Americans at risk by uploading Social Security data to a vulnerable cloud server, a whistleblower complaint said. And there is a part in here that I want to highlight. Matter of fact, I actually did put it in my comment. I did leave a comment. At least I thought I did. No. I left it on hers. Hold on. Let me see. All right. So this is such a crock. If the cloud server is even real, which I doubt, the New York Times article specifically states, quote, should bad actors gain access to this cloud environment, Americans may be susceptible. She's framing it to make it sound like that Doge has made a system that has been hacked, and it's not true. Let me see if I can find out where that is. Let's see. So this database that they claim that Doge created contains records of all social security numbers issued by the federal government. Dude, like hackers, they can break into pretty much any kind of computer. The account by the whistleblower Charles Borges underscores concerns that may lead to lawsuits seeking to block young software engineers at the agency built by Elon Musk, not himself. It was built by people that he brought in, from having access to confidential government data. So let's see. Independent security monitoring. Let's see. Here we go. So his complaint, and they're talking about this whistleblower, Mr. Borges or whatever. His complaint cites an official agency security assessment that described the project as high risk and that warned of catastrophic impact to Social Security beneficiaries and programs if, that's the key word, if the database were to be compromised. So it hasn't been compromised. And I'm sure it is plenty secure enough. This is just the New York Times doing what the New York Times does. So anyway, should bad actors gain access to this cloud environment, Americans may be susceptible to widespread identity theft. They may lose their vital health care and food benefits. I doubt that. And the government may be responsible for reissuing every American a new Social Security number at a great cost, the complaint said. And look, man, it's the federal government. I'm sure most of our federal government computer systems are probably not as airtight and ironclad secure as they really should be. But anyway, this article will be in the description if you want to check it out from the New York Times. And I will head down to the next topic. All right. Just double checking the time here. So, travel, State Department, attention U.S. expats. Do you happen to live outside the United States and have you for some time? The State Department's revamped international travel site now has an entire section dedicated to resources for Americans living abroad. It has information on everything from having a baby while abroad to marriage, retirement, federal benefits, taxes, voting, and more. And I'm going to link that in the description too if you just happen to be living abroad or if you're considering living abroad. Looks like there is travel.state.gov/living abroad. That would be what appears to be a really good resource for you. New State Department webpage for U.S. citizens living abroad. All right, so the next one, Democrats are completely out of touch. That's from the GOP, and they're responding to RNC research from 6 hours ago. 99% of Americans think crime is a problem in big cities. Democrats are siding with the 1%. How much of a problem do you think crime is in large cities? Major problem, 81%. Minor problem, 18%. And crime is not a problem, only 1%. And that poll came from AP NORC Center Public Affairs Research, and they surveyed 1,182 U.S. adults from August 21st to August 25th, and the MOE is plus minus 3.79%. All right, so next one, Homeland Security. It is sickening to think that Ezekiel Cruz Rodriguez, a 47-year-old illegal alien from Mexico and pedophile criminal illegal alien, was residing inside the home where a daycare operates. Thanks to the brave work of our ICE law enforcement officers, this criminal illegal alien, convicted pedophile, and known Logan Heights gang member will no longer be able to prey on children inside a daycare. My God, California. There's just no low. There's no low for California. The degeneracy, man, it is like, it's Sodom and Gomorrah. I think it might be even worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. Oh, man. Let's go to the next one. Howard Lutnick, the numbers are in. GDP growth has surged by 3.3%, and starting now, Commerce.gov has put America's economic data on the blockchain for the first time ever. Under President Trump, the economy is strong. Our workers are winning, and America is leading in crypto and economic innovation. Let's check out this video here. All right, let's go. Maybe if it'll. Oh, yep, got a double click.
The GDP numbers that came out this morning are impressive. The U.S. economy grew at 3.3%. That's right. Donald Trump is fixing the Biden mess and doing it at a record pace. 3.3% GDP growth for the United States of America. And what that did is it helped the United States hit a record $30 trillion economy.
Trillion?
That's right. The United States economy is now larger for the first time ever in this quarter, larger than $30 trillion. The Commerce Department, together with the President of the United States of America, have now put these record GDP numbers on the blockchain. So you've got the crypto president with the greatest $30 trillion economy in the world, putting out those numbers on the blockchain. This is how the golden age feels.
I mean, that's great news. It's just not really affecting everyday Americans all that much. It will, with regard to the workforce, certainly. I mean, this is great for the workforce because these companies, I mean, the money's just rolling in. The Treasury's also taking in tons of money from tariffs. It's just that everyday Americans, they're not seeing their wages move nearly enough, while everything else, man, cars and houses in particular, the two biggest quote unquote assets that an average adult will ever have. I say quote unquote because cars, they're depreciating assets, but they are assets. But yeah, I mean, I guess other than that, that is good news. It's better than the opposite, of course. So it's definitely better to be in that position than be in the opposite position, without any doubt. All right, so from Homeland Security, quote, I am not surprised that some of the same bureaucrats who presided over decades of inefficiency are now objecting to reform, including many who worked under the Biden administration to turn FEMA into the bureaucratic nightmare it is today. And that's from Secretary Noem. And the headline, Noem hits back at FEMA critics, reveals vision for disaster relief agency. And I believe we got a link to it down here. Yeah, we do. Here it is from foxnews.com. And this will be linked in the description if you want to check it out. Matter of fact, we might actually get a video out of it instead. Here, let me back out of this a little bit. Because I mean, if you've watched my other videos, you know how my opinion is on Fox News' website. I'm not a big fan of it. All right, so at our table... let's see. Democratic governor praises Trump's FEMA, says customer service has improved. So I guess we'll give this a listen and a watch, perhaps. Here we go.
And the federal government needs to be there for those people. Lately, I'm hearing why should we spend so much of, quote, our money coming out of federal officials?
There we go.
Those are all our taxpayer dollars.
Amen to that.
And I think the American people would agree that the federal government being there for you at your darkest moment, where through no fault of your own, a hurricane, a tornado, flooding has torn through your communities.
Yeah.
And the irony of all of it, to me, is Trump's FEMA on the ground has done a good job in Kentucky.
Yeah.
They have bettered their customer service. We're not getting nearly as many complaints. They're getting a lot of money through individual assistance out to families, especially after flooding. It's actually a credit to his administration, and it seems to be the thing that they want to undo or unwind.
Look, to be honest, it might sound kind of harsh, but this is what your homeowner's insurance is for. The government shouldn't be paying for everybody's disaster relief. If you lose your home, the federal government picks up the tab. That's not the way it should be. But look, I get it. Like for most people, that's not how it works. Like FEMA's there to provide, medical aid, food aid, and other things of that nature to try to get you through the worst of the worst. I mean, yeah, that's good. That's good that they offer that. I'm just saying, as far as rebuilding houses and the government just picks up the bill for it, I don't agree with that. I think that's what homeowners insurance is for. And if you can't afford homeowners insurance, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, if you lose your house, you just got to rebuild it, I guess. But I know it's harsh. A lot of people probably won't agree with me on that. But I don't like the idea of the government spending billions and billions of dollars on each and every single natural disaster. I mean, we're all aware of where we live. I live in Florida. I know hurricanes happen. I assume the risk because I live here just like everybody else does. And if you can't stand the heat, then you can't live in the kitchen. And it is a risk. I mean, we went through two nasty hurricanes just last September, October with Hurricane Helene and then Hurricane Milton. I mean, 100-mile-an-hour winds right here at my house. They were topping 100 miles an hour. I mean, my neighbors, this big-ass palm tree that they've had up since like the 1950s or 60s or something. Like they said, it was like a 60-some-year-old palm tree, enormous, fell over and damn near took out the roof. I mean, yeah, it was rough. And look, like if FEMA, if they want to pick up the tab for like getting all the electricity turned back on, I mean, I might be for that. I'd be okay with that. But as far as, you know, like paying for people's roofs to get redone and stuff like that, that's what your homeowners is supposed to be for. And unfortunately, and I completely agree that it's bullshit that homeowners insurance companies, that they'll deny claims on the most ridiculous reasons ever. They were so quick to take your money. They're so quick to hand out those premiums that you're paying a lot of money on. But as soon as something happens and you really need it for something, oh no, now we're nowhere to be found. Oh, we're going to have to deny that. And we're going to put you through the absolute ringer trying to get that denial overturned. So yeah, there's lots of problems in that system for sure. There's no doubt about that. I absolutely won't deny that. All right, so you know what? Let's see how this sounds. Let's see about listening to it. That'd be nice. Let me see if I can listen.
Noam hits back at FEMA critics, reveals vision for disaster relief agency. First on Fox.
Ooh, that's
Department
loud.
of Homeland Security, DHS. Secretary Kristi Noem slammed a group of former and current Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, employees who wrote a letter criticizing the Trump administration's handling of the agency as she outlined her vision for FEMA's role in the U.S. More than 190 former and current FEMA employees joined an open letter on Monday in response to the Trump administration's dismantling cuts and devastating attacks on FEMA programs and missions. On Wednesday morning, the agency's current employees who signed on to the letter were placed on administrative leave. I am not surprised that some of the same bureaucrats who presided over decades of inefficiency are now objecting to reform, including many who worked under the Biden administration to turn
of course.
FEMA into the bureaucratic nightmare it is today, DHS Secretary Noem told Fox News Digital on Thursday. I refuse to accept that FEMA red tape should stand between an American citizen suffering and the aid they desperately need. That's why I am working so hard to eliminate FEMA as it exists today and streamline this bloated organization into a tool that actually benefits Americans in crisis, Noem added. President Donald Trump, who has been critical of the disaster agency since his presidential campaign, told reporters in June that FEMA has not worked out well. It's extremely expensive and, again, when you have a tornado or a hurricane or you have a problem of any kind in a state, that's what you have governors for, Trump added.
Right.
They're supposed to fix those problems, and it's
This
much
is true
more
too.
local, and
State
they'll
level.
develop a system, and it will be a great system. The basis of the letter, which was published by nonprofit Stand Up for Science, focuses on Hurricane Katrina and relays concerns that unpreparedness played a large role in the aftermath that shook the Gulf and devastated New Orleans, Louisiana. Signees argue that Noem and the agency's leaders
I moved to
hinder the
Florida
swift
like 2 weeks
execution
after
of
that
FEMA's
hurricane.
mission and dismiss experienced staff whose institutional knowledge and relationships are vital to ensure effective emergency management. Secretary Noem told Fox News Digital that these criticisms are remnants of the Biden administration's wasteful spending and that the agency has a history of failing Americans in real emergencies for decades. The Biden administration spent hundreds of millions of dollars resettling illegal aliens in our country on American taxpayers' dime, while FEMA still hasn't even finished payouts from Hurricane Katrina, Noem explained to Fox. We don't want to just fix a broken system, we want to build something better. As our successes in Texas make clear, the Trump administration has created a deployable disaster force that cuts through the bureaucratic noise and delivers real results in record time, Noem added. Despite the partisan back and forth, some Democrats have recognized the positive direction the disaster agency is heading under Noem and Trump's leadership. Democrat Andy Beshear of Kentucky told at Our Table podcast host Jamie Harrison earlier this month that Trump's FEMA on the ground has done a good job in Kentucky and that the federal government's handling of the agency is actually a credit to Trump's administration. While the immediate future of FEMA and how Congress may go about funding the agency remains unclear, Noem is optimistic that much of the wasteful spending that came from previous leadership will be put to rest. These FEMA career bureaucrats had support service contracts for everything they do, from finance to management support to staffing reviews. A Department of Government Efficiency DOJ told Fox News Digital. They hardly did anything themselves. Instead, they hid their egregious misuse of taxpayer funds under the veneer of emergency management, the DOJ office explained to Fox. No wonder they have the time to write letters to the Hill. They certainly weren't spending their time working.
Yeah, ridiculous. I definitely do agree, though, that states really should handle disaster emergency management better. And if they're going to have to raise state taxes in order to handle that, can't say I agree with that either. I just think that perhaps there should just be more, I guess, responsibility on the homeowners and on the individuals. I mean, we all know what natural disasters are capable of popping off in our local areas. And I don't know, man, but I do think that there is a place for FEMA. And there are a lot of people, especially elderly people who are on fixed incomes. I get it. Like, I'm not saying they should dismantle FEMA completely and that everybody should just be, completely screwed if push comes to shove. But yeah, anyway, so I'll just go ahead and move on to the next because I've got still a few other things to get into here. So from the White House, VP Vance's relationship advice: find yourself somebody who loves you as much as national Democrats love giving health care benefits to illegal aliens. Let's listen to this.
I know we have this beautiful high school class back there. And I'll give you, just from a vice president to the high school seniors, I'll give you guys just a little bit of relationship advice from a man who's been happily married for 11 years. Find yourself somebody who loves you as much as national Democrats love giving health care benefits to illegal aliens. That's my advice for you.
Yep, that's sound advice. Can't argue with that. And where was that from? Oh, yeah, that was from the White House. Okay. All right, so moving to Andrew Ferguson. Today, I sent a letter to Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google's parent company, informing him that such a blatantly partisan tactics could violate the FTC Act's prohibition on unfair or deceptive trade practices. If this is happening and Google doesn't put a stop to it, the Trump-Vance FTC won't hesitate to investigate. And he's the chairman of the FTC, Federal Trade Commission. It's a lengthy letter. Let me see. I don't think I'm going to read all of it, but I'll read at least some of it. So the Federal Trade Commission is the nation's consumer protection agency responsible for protecting American consumers from unfair or deceptive acts or practices. As part of its mission, the agency brings law enforcement actions and educates businesses, industries, and market participants about compliance with the laws the FTC enforces. I write due to recent reporting that suggests Alphabet's administration of Gmail is designed to have partisan effects, and accordingly to notify you that Alphabet may be engaging in unfair or deceptive acts or practices. My understanding from recent reporting is that Gmail's spam filters routinely block messages from reaching consumers when those messages come from Republican senders, but fail to block similar messages sent by Democrats. Indeed, according to recent reporting, Alphabet has been caught this summer flagging Republican fundraising emails as dangerous spam, keeping them from hitting Gmail users' inboxes while leaving similar solicitations from Democrats untouched. Likewise, commenters on the FTC's request for information regarding technology platform censorship have complained that Google is using a partisan ... approach in administering its spam filters. And finally, as you know, similar concerns have resulted in ongoing litigation against Google in other settings. And he pretty much wraps up saying that this is illegal. You better stop what you're doing because, I'd really hate to see us investigating your ass and levying giant fines against your company, as Google has been many times in the past. I would actually love to know how much. Let me see. How much money in fines has Google ever paid for any kind of wrongdoing? Investigating approximately $12.8 billion. This total includes major antitrust fines from the EU totaling about $8.2 billion or $9 billion USD for cases like Google's Shopping, Android, and AdSense. Let's see. Plus key U.S. settlements such as $391 million in 2022 for location tracking privacy violations and around $700 million in 2019 for data breaches, along with smaller penalties from other regions like France and India. That's a lot of money. That's a lot. billions and billions of dollars. So it looks like they're going to be on the hook to pay out billions of more. But I don't think that they're really going to care all that much about it because they're ideologically driven. A lot of these people who take a hard line siding with Democrats and they're running these giant corporations, they don't care. They're ideologically driven. They put their ideology above money in many cases. So I don't think they're going to quit doing it. I think they're just going to keep it up, especially going into the midterm. How long is it going to take for the FTC to investigate them and get a judge to order that they stop doing what they're doing? Sounds like something that could potentially be dragged on for, what, a year and a half, maybe even longer, in which case they're going to keep doing it through the midterms if they don't put a stop to it. Hopefully they will, though. We'll just have to wait and see. And from the FTC, Federal Trade Commission Chairman Andrew N. Ferguson issues a letter on Gmail using partisan filtering, which I'm sure it's going to be the exact same letter, but I will at least link it in the description if you want to check that out. Plus, it looks like they have an article. Also, you know what? It's pretty short. Today, Federal Trade Commission Chairman Andrew N. Ferguson issued a letter to Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai regarding potential FTC Act violations related to partisan administration of Gmail. The letter addresses reporting that Gmail users' partisan methods to determine which emails are flagged as spam and reminds Alphabet of its obligations under the FTC Act. Federal Trade Commission works to promote competition and protect and educate consumers. The FTC will never demand money, make threats, tell you to transfer money, or promise you a prize. Learn more about consumer topics at consumer.ftc.gov. All right, so we'll head on down to the next from Caroline Levitt. This is President Trump's message to Americans in Democrat-run cities nationwide. Decline is a choice. You don't have to live in constant fear of being robbed, raped, or murdered. Your leaders are lying to you, and they have been failing you for decades. The Trump approach of upholding law and order and allowing our brave men and women in blue to actually do their jobs to aggressively stomp out crime, it works.
This entire effort has vindicated what President Trump and law and order advocates have been saying for years. And this is our message to Americans in Democrat-run cities nationwide. Decline is a choice. You don't have to live in constant fear of being robbed, raped, or murdered. Your leaders are lying to you, and they have been failing you for decades. The President Trump approach of upholding law and order by letting our brave men and women in blue actually do their jobs to aggressively fight crime works. In just a few weeks, President Trump has done more for D.C. residents than Democrats did in 50 years.
Yep.
And this can be replicated in other crime-ridden cities across the nation.
Yeah, easily.
As President Trump has said, all of these elected officials in charge have to do is pick up the phone and ask for the president and the federal government's help. President Trump doesn't care if they are a Republican.
They don't even need that. They need to fix their damn policies. They got to fix the administrators that are running these cities. I think most of these cities, they've got an adequate enough number of cops. It's the police and their inability to make arrests, like in Chicago, where they're only arresting 16% of all crimes. Plus, you get a lot of these activist judges that are just letting everybody out without bail or, in many cases, probably just dropping the charges altogether. And yeah, I mean, that obviously needs to be fixed. And the best way to fix it is doing essentially what she's doing, is informing the public to quit voting for these assholes. You got to vote them the fuck out, man. They're only going to keep making it worse.
Republican or a
while
Democrat
lying
leader,
to you on top
he
of
wants
it.
Americans
You're
to
voting
be safe
for liars.
and for every law-abiding American citizen across the country to be able to thrive in their city and in their community.
God willing, man. All right, from Rep. Mike Haradopoulos, Democrat-run sanctuary cities have been issuing commercial driver's licenses to people who cannot even read a road sign. Why are they putting the needs of foreigners over the basic safety of American families? Why?
This crash happened just outside of your district. Your reaction?
I'm just appalled by what's happening. Just shows once again that sanctuary states ruin not just their own state, but can impact the lives of so many others. Just south of my district, this happened. Horrible situation. And these are the basics about, think about what the government is for. Life, liberty, property. You protect those things. It's basic public safety. And here's the hypocrisy of California allowing this person to get a license without the ability to read a sign, which is so basic. And this is how far the left has gone in protecting all the wrong people. The president and Republicans are absolutely committed to not only public safety, but it's just common sense. Yeah. I mean, come on. And because of these actions, lives are destroyed. It's time for us to step up. I'm glad that Ron DeSantis is even checking trucks is now going to come into Florida to make sure that our roadways are safe.
Yeah, good. I mean, God knows how many illegal immigrants are driving semi-trucks. Probably countless thousands of them, probably. And it could be Americans who would be having those jobs. I think everybody would prefer that. From DOD Rapid Response, carjackings, robberies, and violent crime has been slashed thanks to local law enforcement and the National Guard. We will continue to make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful.
Since President Trump's intervention, there have been more than 1,283 arrests right here in the District of Columbia. Total crime in D.C. is down 19%, and violent crime is down 30%. Carjackings in the district are down 67%. Homicides are down 57%. Robberies are down 40%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 32%. And assaults with dangerous weapons are down 23%. And property crime is down 18%. These numbers prove the president's bold actions to make D.C. safe and beautiful again are working.
Damn straight. They are working, and they'll continue working. And even the mayor of Washington, D.C. had to come out and not only admit it, but basically support it by saying that crime is way down. You can't hide from the numbers. I mean, everybody that's living in the city, they obviously know. Like, restaurants are up as far as restaurant attendance. People are walking around feeling safe. All right, from Senate Judiciary Democrats, when Donald Trump feels threatened, he lashes out. His approval ratings are tanking on immigration. Now he's trying to make a show of it in Chicago. Of course, they share an unflattering picture of him, but this is the graph that he showed. No citations, no clue where it came from. Of course, it's almost as if he made it up by himself, which I wouldn't doubt for a second. You'd think they would at least have some citation on here, but no, because these people are liars. They're absolute liars. I think I might have made a comment to that effect, didn't I? Notice how there's no citation on this graph. I have to assume it's 100% fake because it is. These are all lies. More lies. 80% of Americans love it. When I stopped listening to you, it switched from independent to Republican. It was one of the biggest changes in my life. I live in Massachusetts, and the amount of citizens, kids getting graped by illegal aliens is staggering. You made us less safe. No representation. And he shares that image. Hey, dipshit, he is not running again, so he really does not care about approval ratings. Duh. Exactly. That's what I said that time and time again, that Trump has got to have a second term because the gloves can come off. He doesn't have to please anybody. He doesn't have to worry about a re-election. The only thing he really does have to worry about is maintaining the House and the Senate during the midterms. And that's really about it. And also trying to keep the Republican Party as solid as they can to carry them into the future and try to get them to win more elections into the future. So I guess in some ways he does have to tread carefully as far as what he applies in his executive orders and other practices that he does. But I think he's doing a hell of a bang up job, and everybody else does too. For the vast majority does. At least 80%, if not higher than that, are probably very happy with the job that he's doing so far, at least in one way or another. So Secretary Chris Wright, President Trump's common sense energy agenda means American taxpayers will no longer foot the bill for projects that raise electricity prices and ultimately don't work. This is from the Washington Free Beacon. Size this up here. Exclusive. Trump withdraws $716 million Biden-era loan for New Jersey green energy project, dealing the latest blow to the wind industry. The Trump administration is done subsidizing projects that ultimately raise energy prices, officials tell Free Beacon. And President Donald Trump's Department of Energy withdrew $715.8 million loan from the Biden administration to a New Jersey utility company to help finance a proposed power line transporting offshore wind power to the grid. According to 3 Energy Department officials, the agency withdrew the loan after negotiations with leaders of Jersey Central Power and Light, the company behind the project. JCPL leaders, they said, acknowledged the project was likely no longer feasible in light of recent offshore wind project cancellations in New Jersey. In other words, the power line would be rendered useless without offshore wind projects. The officials who spoke with the Free Beacon on the condition of anonymity added that the loan didn't conform with the Trump administration's energy agenda, which prioritizes traditional power generation over weather-dependent electricity like wind and solar. The Trump administration is done subsidizing projects that ultimately raise energy prices and that are bad investments for the American people. This decision should come as no surprise, one of the officials said. Wind and solar, it's not going to power the AI infrastructure that we're racing against China to maintain superiority. And we need, I guess for lack of a better word, we need legacy power resources. We've got to have nuclear and wherever possible, hydroelectric. Those are systems that work, and they work for a very, very long time. Plus, as far as I understand, nuclear's got the highest return on investment of any type of power source. Anyway, we're happy to work with these utilities. We just want to do things that actually solve the problem of fixing higher prices and making us more energy secure, end quote, a second official told the Free Beacon. So, and it continues from there. It's going to be in the description, freebeacon.com. I think that's the only Free Beacon article that I've got. So it'll be down there if you want to check it out. Secretary Marco Rubio, the E3, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, they initiated a process to reimpose UN sanctions on Iran. Snapback sanctions are a direct response to Iran's continuing defiance of its nuclear commitments. The United States supports the E3's decision and urges Iran to engage in serious diplomatic negotiations to resolve the nuclear issue. And then going to FBI, Salt Typhoon cyber actors infiltrated the networks of multiple telecommunications companies, recklessly stole personal data belonging to millions of Americans, and in some instances, surveilled communications, all in support of the Chinese Communist Party. The exception of privacy was violated not just in the United States, but abused globally. Through the FBI's investigation, our Washington field office notified hundreds of U.S. victims in at least 80 countries where Salt Typhoon activity was detected. Now, the FBI, in partnership with other U.S. and foreign government agencies, has released a joint cybersecurity advisory to educate and equip network defenders to mitigate and prevent Salt Typhoon activity on their networks. This release is deeply informed by government and industry investigations. It is a milestone in the Salt Typhoon story, but the story isn't finished. We will keep pressing forward until those responsible are brought to justice. Man, that was a long read.
I'm Brett Leatherman, head of the FBI Cyber Division. Last fall, the FBI and CISA attributed compromises at U.S. telecommunications providers to PRC-affiliated actors known as Salt Typhoon. Active since at least 2019, these actors conducted a significant cyber espionage campaign, breaching global telecommunications privacy and security norms. Today, we are releasing a joint cybersecurity advisory to help defenders prevent, detect, and respond to this threat. Paired with guidance from late 2024, it offers practical steps to improve visibility and detect malicious activity early. Last fall, our Washington field office uncovered forensic evidence which enabled us to notify victims about compromises. The timely, critical information shared by victims in collaboration with cyber threat intelligence and incident response companies played a pivotal role in countering the activity. Their willingness to share information in real time made this progress possible, protecting not only their networks, but the broader telecommunications sector and global infrastructure. Beijing's indiscriminate targeting of private communications demands our stronger collaboration with partners to identify and counter this activity at the earliest stages.
And we're letting in 600,000 Chinese young adults to get their education here. And that's probably where they learned how to do all this shit.
If you believe you are a victim of Salt Typhoon or any other malicious cyber activity, I encourage you to contact your local FBI field office. I'm proud of the FBI's role in defending our nation's critical infrastructure. Defending the homeland means protecting the American people and our institutions from foreign intelligence collection and cyber operations.
Okay, yeah, I mean, not to cut him off, but yeah, I mean, we got the gist of it. So let's move on to Senator Dick Durbin. Chicago hasn't asked and doesn't consent to Donald Trump deploying the military to our city, period. Oh, that's just so nice that he speaks on behalf of everybody living in the state. I somehow doubt that. Too late. This is from yours truly. D.C. residents, including the mayor herself, already stated how grateful they are for the sharp reduction in crime. Get ready, Chicago. President Batman is about to fight more crime. And I linked the article from New York Post. Trump's D.C. takeover wins praise from residents and business owners as crime plummets. I did read this yesterday, so I guess I'll link it if you really want to check it out if you didn't have a chance to check this out yesterday. But Trump's D.C. takeover caused violence to plummet 45%, Democrat mayor admits, as residents and business owners say, we feel much more safe. So that I'll go ahead and link that down there if you want to check that out. And from Christie for Trump. Oh, yeah, no, never mind. There we are. I was going to say, wait a minute, where did that come from? All right, so we've got the next one from Attorney General Pamela Bondi from 12 hours ago. I'm pleased to report another 105 arrests have been made and 12 illegal guns have been taken off the streets of Washington, D.C. Our law enforcement partners continue to make D.C. safe again. 1283 arrests. That jumped up quick, man. It was they just crossed 1,000 either the day before yesterday or maybe on Monday. It might have been Monday, but I think it might have actually been on Tuesday when they crossed the 1,000 mark. All right, so from J.D. Vance, we pray because our hearts are broken. We pray because we know God listens. We pray because we know that God works in mysterious ways and can inspire us to further action. Why do you feel the need to attack other people for praying when kids were just killed praying? And that's in response to the former White House press secretary, Jen Psaki. Prayer is not freaking enough. Prayers does not end school shootings. Prayers do not make parents feel safe sending their kids to school. Prayer does not bring these kids back. Enough with the thoughts and prayers. Okay, Ms. Nihilist. But yeah, so he was responding to that. She's obviously an asshole. I mean, prayers do work, especially if you find yourself to be a Christian. But we don't pray expecting God to be a genie, just granting us wishes. For the most part, I would say most of us pray because we're grateful that we got to see the sunrise again. We're grateful for the food that we have, the living that we get to enjoy, living in the greatest country the world's ever known, the most powerful and the richest, and things like that. But, you know, whatever. I mean, that kind of speaks for itself. What she said was just appalling, especially in the context of the school shooting that just happened yesterday by a transgender, by the way. And speaking of which, from Liz Churchill, there seems to be a pattern. The Uvalde shooter, trans. Denver shooter, trans. Georgia shooter, trans. Nashville, trans. Colorado, trans. Aberdeen, trans. Minnesota, trans. Iowa shooter, gender fluid. And Philadelphia shooter, trans. Yep, seems like there's a pattern. And that went just a little bit viral with 12 million views. And we have finally from Senator Mike Lee, leftists hate the idea of anything more powerful than government. So they despise the Second Amendment. But it's not going away, and neither are we. Those are very wise words that I totally agree with. And that's going to do it for this episode. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me. And I'll drop a new show every evening covering the swamp and everyone living in it. The bureaucrats, the politicians, the agencies, and everything else. At the very least, I'm going to drop a new one from Monday through Friday. Maybe on the weekends, if I have time, I'll do an episode on a Saturday or a Sunday. But for sure, Monday through Friday, that's when I plan on releasing an episode. Usually they're up around 9 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock. They do come out a little late because I get a start around 7 p.m. and it's usually done by 8:30. And then I put it together, upload it. It's usually there by like 9 or 10 at the very latest. So anyway, I also post daily episodes over on X, and so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.